trustee. It's going to be very hard. I mean, I'm actually curious to know as we go through this, how you're going to be working on regaining the trust, because after COVID, people haven't trusted this probably for the last 5 years. And that's going to be a lot of work for you guys.
Guys, thank you so much for joining me. This is SotoCast. I'm John Soto. I'm here with PBD and the director of the FDA. This one just dropped a little while ago. We're going to go through it really quick. Just one little quick segment that I think is pretty important. If you guys can watch the entire thing, it's about 2 hours long. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at this little segment and just have a little quick discussion on it. Let's get into it right now.
Well, I think that's one of our big goals, to rebuild public trust. And we're doing it by trying to show some humility in our approach, being extremely honest, and by talking to the public. We're not living in a black box in an ivory tower. I'm here and I've been talking to people that want to have a serious conversation about what's wrong with our healthcare system. And we don't talk about, when we talk about healthcare and everyone's talking about how to finance our broken healthcare system, what's been missing are the two root causes. The price of goods and services is way too high, and it could be much lower. You're seeing President Trump now announce lower drug prices at the price of pennies on the dollar, what these drugs used to be. And the other issue is the health of the population. No one talks about that.
So just to the first point, obviously everyone knows this, right? That the system charges Americans at an exorbitant rate, way above all other people around the world. I mean, basically, which is crazy because the vast majority of these drugs are made here, and they get sold abroad at a much cheaper rate than we pay. And a lot of people believe. And I think the biggest part of the problem is because there is a corporate capture of the system, the semi-socialist, pretending to be capitalistic system that is our healthcare system, where basically nobody foots the bill. The third party ends up footing the bill, and therefore whether it's the hospital or the provider or whoever it is, they just jack up the prices to a crazy rate. If you don't know what the cash out of pocket cost is of something, there's a problem. There's a massive problem with that. There's no way you can tell me that you can't walk into a hospital and say, yeah, I just want a breakdown. I want to pay. I want a la carte, right? You can't do that. You have to go in there. They do everything to you. Somebody walks in for 2 minutes, and then that gets booked as a consult or whatever it is. I mean, they're just tacking on and on and on and on, and it's because the person footing the bill isn't the person getting the service. It is the taxpayer, for the most part, that is being shafted on the majority of the money that's going into these medical institutions, whether it's through Medicaid, Medicare, and then also when you look at the Obamacare thing that's going on right now. I mean, it's a disaster. Don't know how it's going to get fixed, but it's a disaster, just to say the least.
The fact that 40% of our nation's kids have a chronic disease. Many of them take regular medications. What's going on here? We're just medicating our nation's kids at scale, and nobody is saying stop and look up and look around and see what we're doing. We take these kids and we rattle them in the middle of the night in their circadian rhythm. We put them on a school bus, not because it's good for their circadian rhythm, but because it's convenient for adults going to work. And then we pound them with ultra-processed foods and high glycemic loads, and we tell them to sit still at a desk. And then we pound them again with an ultra-processed lunch. And then we tell them to sit still again, and they can't do it. They got to sort of sugarcoat it. And then what do?
This was one of the reasons why I pulled this clip right here, because of this point. Because I've been saying and thinking the exact same thing for quite a while. I feel kind of bad when I see my boys go off to school. I have older kids that are already out of school. I still have young kids that are still currently in school, and it does weigh on me. I mean, it's not meant for them. I don't have the availability at this time to do homeschooling or anything like that. It's kind of a little scary to me, just to be quite honest with you. I mean, maybe it's something that when I'll have a little bit more free time in about a year from now. And then maybe it'll be something that I'll consider, but it is a very scary thing to take that onto yourself, But who knows? Maybe it'll be something that I'll do in the future. But I do see that it is just not a productive, especially I don't know for boys. Boys just don't like it. I see the little girls when I take my little one to school. I see the little girls skipping their way into classroom, and he is just not happy about it. He wants to be home. Probably because he wants to just be playing games and stuff like that. But that should also, it should tell you something, right? That your child is just like, and I remember, and I told him the same thing. I'm honest with him. I said, your dad was the exact same way. I hated school, every minute of it. I can't, it's very difficult for me to be sitting still, doing something very monotonous over and over and over again. And when there are other things that are they're interesting to me to do and to learn and to experience, that would actually still be beneficial to me as or as a child, would actually still be beneficial as an adult. And learning skills and trades, stuff like that, working with your hands, getting outdoors, doing things of that nature. And our school system is just stymies the growth of young boys. I mean, it's terrible. It really is terrible. I don't know what the answer is again. But like I said, it may be a good thing for girls. Girls seem to thrive in that environment where they can sit down, everything's very neat, and they can write their stuff. And I'm sure some boys too. I mean, there's a Pareto distribution just like with everything else. There's going to be. I just think that the peak of the distribution has more females than males when it comes to your standardized schooling.
Processed foods and high glycemic loads, and we tell them to sit still at a desk, and then we pound them again with an ultra-processed lunch, and then we tell them to sit still again, and they can't do it. They got to sort of sugarcoat, and then what do? We tell them you're a bad kid, and we drug our nation's kids at scale. They have less natural light exposure than prisoners. What is going on? So we've got to talk about these root causes. So we're talking about all of this stuff, and we're doing research, and we're talking about the medicalization of ordinary life.
So your friends, their top three things. One was food supply. Two was cure for diseases, which you just talked about, cancer, other things that we're talking about.
Yep.
Where was investigating Fauci on the list?
A lot of people are angry at Fauci. A lot of people have a right to be angry.
You were angry. You were very angry with him. You said a few things about him as well, right? A few years ago. You were very bold about it.
I think you can kind of see you can kind of see it in his face where obviously he's not going to go there. Because I do remember him, back during the COVID era, where he was very vocal. He was basically saying that we got to get this guy. Obviously, I don't know if there's been a paradigm shift within the administration. A lot of people, they have issues with the administration currently because everyone wants their own thing to be priority number one, and obviously that can't be. But there's a lot of things going on. It is the freaking United States government. They have so much shit going on in so many different directions that for everyone to get exactly what they want is impossible. If I can get 30% of what I'm asking for, I mean, I would much rather be like 50 to 60%. But as long as we're heading in the right direction, that's a good thing. Try not to be in wars, which I understand that the thing in Venezuela. By the way, there was a bombshell. I was watching Benny Johnson last night, and that whole Venezuelan thing going on. There's a lot more to cover that we'll cover on the next video. But yeah, that's a huge deal. Supposedly, like, Trump is getting back at Maduro for possibly fixing the 2020 election, and that may be what's stirring everything going on. And Musk was aware of it, and Musk actually knew, and he was the one that told the White House that the Maduro regime was in control and swaying the election. Again, I don't want to get off topic here, but that is a huge deal. But yeah, you could see he's taking a step back. You could see in his demeanor right now. I think he gets a little bit more into it as you go along. But Fauci, I mean, people want to see some kind of accountability for all that has gone on in the past 5 years. It's been 6 years since COVID. I had a child right in the middle. I had a child February 2020. My wife and I had our youngest February 2020, right in the middle of it. It was a whirlwind. And the fact that this man was possibly responsible for, essentially everything, and then covering it up and then benefiting over it. I mean, the fact that guy's not held accountable, it just kind of spits in the face of everybody, and essentially lets people know that there are many tiers to being a person. You have your A tier, your B tier, your C tier, then you have the regular people that if you get a ticket if you cross the street going the wrong way.
But you were probably one of the most vocal ones towards him.
When we were all trying to figure out COVID at the very beginning, I was editor-in-chief of one of the largest trade publications that doctors read, called MedPage Today. And I figured we were hearing stories about Wuhan, China. I got to figure out the real story. I don't want to hear political pundits opine and talk about American resilience. Remember that whole, we'll be fine, we'll be strong. What the heck are you talking about? We have to understand the transmissibility, the viral load, the treatments. And so I went deep dive on this. I called doctors in Wuhan during that whole outbreak. And I basically started to realize that Fauci was misleading the public. There's only 3 coronaviruses that cause severe illness in humans: SARS, MERS, and COVID-19. Well, the other 2 are airborne. Why did he think this suddenly took a turn and was just going to be different? And telling teachers in the summer of 2020 to wear gloves and goggles and pour a gallon of alcohol solution on your mail. And I mean, what the heck was going on? So I realized when he was being introduced on the media as our nation's top, remember this, our nation's top infectious diseases doctor, I knew the guy had not done an infectious diseases fellowship training. And there was this sort of bandwagon thinking. We see it a lot in medicine. We see it with, opioids are not addictive. How dare you disagree? We got that wrong for 15 years. It's an old story in medicine. And so now I realize as I was trying to figure things out and be independent from just reciting the catechism that Fauci put out, what he was doing with his time is leading a massive cover-up of the possibility that this came from the Wuhan lab, which any...
Guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you're still here, please subscribe to the channel. That's all I ask. You don't have to click anything. If you want to comment, if you want to like, if you want to share, that's cool. But my main thing is just subscribe to the channel. Small channel trying to grow. That is the most important thing to me right now. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you.
A smart person will tell you it's obvious, right? The epicenter of the world was 5 miles from the lab. The lab had submitted, we just learned this about 2 years ago. And there's a great film called Thank You, Dr. Fauci. And it goes through all this. And that lab had submitted a grant proposal to the United States government 2 years before COVID in 2018, saying the proposal said, we at the Wuhan lab would like to take a bat coronavirus and genetically modify it by inserting the furin cleavage sites to enable it to infect humans. Now, what? It was the cookbook for COVID-19. And then people are acting like, oh, we don't know where it came from. They were plotting to do it. They had the resources to do it. They filed for a patent for a COVID-19 vaccine in like February of 2020. How do you have a patent on a vaccine that early? People have a right to be angry. I'm angry. 20 million people may have died globally, $25 trillion. And people in the United States got so polarized, this toxic polarization, they got spun up by affirming media where they're angry at everybody. They're angry at a college kid who's healthy, who has no risk of dying of COVID, because he's not getting his second COVID booster shot. They're angry at somebody not wearing a mask outside, a cloth mask. And they're angry at everybody, but they're not angry at the scientists that brewed this up at the lab. They were mad.
The fact that people still have not internalized the psyop that they went through. The fact that I still see people wearing masks today. I mean, this is almost 6 years later. It's crazy. It actually is 6 years later. Wow. But the fact that people never internalized and never thought through like I was really tricked. Like, how are you not angry as hell? How are you not insanely angry? I was tricked. They tricked my young kids into getting the shot. They tricked me into taking the shot. They scared the shit out of us over something that was, it was a novel virus, right? Any novel virus, for the most part, even if it has like a point whatever mortality rate, is going to obviously affect the people that are most ill and vulnerable, right? So all you had to do was, again, I think, I don't know if he was a signer to the Great Barrington Declaration, but Jay Bhattacharya, who's the head of NIH right now. He put that out with a bunch of really smart scientists and basically said the lockdowns are retarded. All you have to do is isolate and care for the vulnerable. That's all you had to do. Everyone else could have gone to work. The kids could have went to school. Teachers could have taught. Everyone could have been the same. Let's say if you had a teacher that was in a group that was highly susceptible or more elderly or they had comorbidities, you could have taken them and said, okay, we're gonna keep funding you. We'll keep paying you. And you're going to get a substitute teacher for the next 6 months or whatever. That would have been a hell of a lot cheaper than shutting down the entire freaking world or the entire U.S. because a lot of the world stay open. The U.S. completely locked down. Many parts of the U.S., the major hubs, right, the big cities of the U.S., completely shut down, putting people out of work, putting kids in front of screens for an entire year. Absolute freaking disaster. And we don't have answers. Nobody's been held accountable. How does something like that happen? And again, how do people just now being able to look at it objectively, still even all the liberal media is now admitting, yeah, it was a lab leak and this and that, and you guys are still not pressing to get to the bottom. All you want to hear about is the Epstein list because you think it's gonna hurt the guy that you don't like. But nobody's still pressing this issue. This is one of the massive. This is probably the biggest catastrophe, the biggest man-made disaster in recorded history, and nobody's been held accountable. How? We have documentation showing there was a line between NIH funding and the Wuhan lab. We have correspondence showing that they knew that this shit came from a lab in the middle of 2019, and there's nothing. Nobody's held accountable. It is the most infuriating thing. And I don't even like talking about it. I mean, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why nothing gets done, because people just let things go out of their frame of mind, and they just move on with life. And they just say, "Listen, it is what it is. People are going to get away with shit, and I just have to live my life." I mean, I guess that's another way of thinking about it. That it's just some things are just too big to even like wrap your head around and start tackling.
Mad scientists.
So what should happen though? I mean, if you think about, here's a guy who said, masks, yeah, you got to wear masks, and the cameras were off, he's taking the masks off. Here's a guy that said, I probably will never shake another person's hand ever again. It's probably a good idea to never shake someone's hand ever again. What are you talking about? I mean, you came in right now, we shook hands. That's one way of greeting each other, right? He says, you should trust me. I think I'm somebody you should trust. Trust science. He kept saying this over and over and over again, and then making people feel guilty. So now people sit there and listen to him. 6-foot rule, I never said that. You kind of did. And hey, my grandma's dying. No, you can't go see her. Why? Because you may give her COVID, or you may give you COVID. I never saw my grandma on her deathbed. There's a lot of people that went through this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What can you do? What can, HHS do to make those people whole and say, you know what? I'm good. We got to the bottom of it. Now I can live my life, and accountability's been held. What do you think can happen for those people to be comfortable moving forward?
I don't know, but people want closure. They want a proper investigation. They want justice to be served. There was clearly a massive cover-up. I mean, 3 a.m. emails going on when Fauci was told that, hey, the Wuhan lab is being implicated, and we funded the Wuhan lab. They
3 a.m. email that he's
to the head of the committee that's supposed to approve gain-of-function research, and Fauci and Collins had created a system. So the origin is that in Wisconsin, in conjunction with another lab, they did an experiment where they juiced up a flu virus to make it very deadly, and they showed that it infected these ferrets, which are known respiratory models used for research. And they published this article, and basically the researchers said, "Hey, we juiced up, we Frankensteined a very deadly virus." And we show that it's contagious. And the world scientific community read this article and said, what the hell did you just do? No one should ever do this. Just because you can do something in science doesn't mean you should. This is a bunch of mad scientists. And they petitioned President Obama at the time to ban gain-of-function research. And he, to his credit, put a moratorium on it. Well, Fauci and Collins were known to oppose this moratorium, and they did their bureaucratic ways to make sure that they could continue to do this, including writing an op-ed titled something like Dangerous Flu Research, Gain-of-Function Research, a Risk Worth Taking. And they changed the definition, and they worked around the committee that was supposed to approve grants for gain-of-function research, and they continued to fund gain-of-function research. Now, President Trump, one of his first things when we all took our office was to ban gain-of-function research, any dangerous gain-of-function research. Fauci will still parse his words. He's kind of a master at it. Like when he said, I never called for schools to be closed. Well, when DeSantis reopened the schools, he said, this is extremely dangerous, right? And people could die. And so, I mean, he's the master of sort of circumlocution, I don't know what's going to happen, but people have a right to be angry.
so
They sure do. They sure do. Let me just see if I can pop this up here so you guys can see the title of it. Going. Sorry, guys. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. I just want you to see the title of this thing. I guess I can't show it, but I will tell you what it is. It is FDA Commissioner Marty Makary on Tylenol vaccines and autism, plus Fauci. So he is, again, the head of the FDA. This is a PBD episode that just came out. It's hot off the press. We'll take a look at the entire podcast. It's about 2 hours long. Pretty good. Again, guys, I speed things up. If you don't like that, please let me know so that I can stop doing that. But I do it for myself so I can get through as much as I possibly can with the limited amount of time that I have, because I know, I don't have you guys for the 2 hours that they're going to do the show. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. 6283-TALK on the X if you want to follow me on the X. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can drop it down in the comments. Please hit the subscribe button. I am John Soto. I will see you again in the next video. Take care, guys.